we're shooting you. Do you understand?
Please do not shoot me.
Begging for his life.
Then listen to my instructions.
I'm trying to do it.
Don't talk, listen. Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're gonna fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
An officer then orders Shaver to crawl toward him. Shaver complies, but then moves his right hand behind him despite the warning. Officer Philip Mitchell Brailsford fires 5 rounds, killing Shaver. Brailsford was charged with second-degree murder over this January 2016 shooting. In an interview with police, he said he thought Shaver was going for a gun, saying, quote, "He could have..."
Are new developments tonight in the deadly police shooting of an unarmed father in North Carolina. That young father was deaf. Daniel Harris was shot during a traffic stop near his home, a state trooper opening fire, and there are questions from neighbors and family asking, was Harris simply trying to use sign language when it happened? Police now searching through dash cam and body cam video, and ABC's Lindsay Davis on a family demanding answers tonight.
Tonight, officials are searching through police dashboard and body camera video to find out why an unarmed deaf man was shot to death by police just feet away from his home.
Howard Troll's been involved in a shooting.
Police say they were trying to pull Daniel Harris over for speeding, but he didn't stop for 7 miles until he made it home and got out of his car. Why Harris didn't stop is unclear. Eyewitnesses suggest he may have been using hand gestures or sign language with police.
That guy's deaf. He didn't even hear the siren. He didn't hear anything.
Harris, the father of a 3-year-old, was killed by a single gunshot, according to authorities. His brother, who's also deaf, says police aren't trained enough in dealing with deaf people.
If the officer had known that he was deaf, it would have ended differently.
At a vigil, mourners wrote in chalk along his street, "Justice for Daniel."
Authorities say they still need more time because so many officers responded to the
video they're about to see is actually pretty graphic. Now, we can tell you the man is alive. He is out of the hospital. Police say the man actually had a knife in his right hand, but his family says there was no need for the police to shoot him. A cell phone video captured a loud, chaotic, and fast-moving police response. First a taser, followed by gunshots.
A whole bunch of chaos. It was just me screaming. I was freaking out.
Oh my God!
The man police shot her 61-year-old uncle, Eric Rosalia. It happened yesterday afternoon in their Hayward driveway.
Just the gunshots, just seeing my uncle not posing a real threat and him still being shot, and he could have died.
Okay.
Like domestic violence, police violence is much the same. There seems to be no regards to age, sex, sexual orientation, financial situation, or race. During the years of 2013 to 2019, there have been more than 7,000 people killed by policemen. A little more than 68 have been charged, very few convicted, very few justified. All people matter. They are George Floyd.
Raise up your voice at Thanksgiving dinner to your drunk uncle who says some racist shit. You need to speak up in your workplace. And you need to tell them. Tell your coworkers you do not allow racist language in your workplace.
What's it called? Subscribe. What's it called? Subscribe. What's it called? Subscribe.
It doesn't have to be ugly. Remember, white bread. Not all racism is obvious.
Click subscribe right now. When are you gonna click? Right now. When are you gonna click? Right now. When are you gonna click? Subscribe. Subscribe.
I don't condone violence, but I understand it. Justice! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! No justice!
Civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton with the mother of Eric Garner, another African-American man who died in police custody. And his last words, "I can't breathe," because he too was in a chokehold.
George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd!
Despite a curfew imposed by the city's mayor, demonstrators in Minneapolis took to the streets all weekend, and they were joined by thousands of other protesters across the United States in almost every major city. In Brooklyn, a police vehicle pushed into the crowd. There were demonstrations in Canada, too, all of them calling for justice for George Floyd. After a white police officer kneeled on Floyd's neck for almost 9 minutes, that police officer is now charged with murder. Protesters also gathered outside the White House this weekend, some facing off against police. And through it all, the U.S. president has been tweeting, condemning the violence. Here's what Donald Trump said in Florida during the SpaceX launch.
My administration will always stand against violence.
He was celebrating the high school graduation of his daughter.
We believe that the police murdered my brother.
Strong emotions from Whitaker's sister calling out Phoenix police on their public statements.
The call that they responded on was a physical fight or a verbal fight, and as they responded on scene, it was a domestic violence, some type of physical altercation.
A spokesperson saying officers received not one but 2 domestic violence calls from a neighbor saying there was a physical altercation.
There was not a domestic dispute as being reported. They were not fighting, not arguing. They were playing a PlayStation game, which requires they were having fun, yelling and screaming, having fun.
Whitaker's sister recounting the girlfriend's firsthand account, who was inside the apartment and was in a back room.
They had already retired to bed. They were sitting up in bed talking, getting ready to go to sleep. Someone banging on their door, and they have, he jumps up and he goes to the door with a gun. This is America. You're allowed to go to your door with a gun if you feel threatened in your own home.
Phoenix police were asked directly, what did Whitaker do that made him a threat? But they have not given a clear answer.
At some point, that encounter ended with the officer shooting the individual.
Did he point a gun? Was he aggressive? Police not saying. We asked them also if they've ever responded to calls here before, with no answer.
They should be diffusing the situation, not automatically shooting and shooting to kill.
The family also saying that the girlfriend was not injured because there was no physical domestic violence. Police were asked if the girlfriend or Whitaker